Hi, welcome back to West Coast Geeks. I'm your host, Joaquin. How we doing, people? So today's video is the 5th edition D&D 2021 review. Was 2021 a good year for Dungeons & Dragons? To help me go over this is longtime friend of the show and my personal buddy, Greg.
Hey everyone.
Everyone indeed. When I was thinking about making this video, I told Greg, I was like, so I want to do a year in review of D&D, 2021 as far as like the changes that have happened. We're only talking like a few books that have really come out, mostly like, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, a couple of other D&D what's the word? Look, supplements have come out, some changes, but overall since what, about 2014 is when D&D, when 5th edition was introduced?
Oh, probably.
Yeah, 2014, 2015. Feel free to leave that in the comments below. If you're new to the channel, hello. Thanks for stopping by. With 2024 rapidly, coming around the corner, it feels like that's the 50th anniversary. And I was telling Greg, they've already stated that they are going to do a change. Some people are still kind of speculating that they're going to do 6th edition and revamp everything in a sense, where all new players' handbooks, DM's guide, monster manuals, new stats. But they kind of hinted that they weren't going to go that way, but I mean, it's Wizards. So I thought we'd do a year end review of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition as a whole since the beginning up to this point, like, the good, the bad, and I guess the ugly. So let's get on with this show.
All right.
All right. All
Um,
right. Does 5th edition D&D have more role playing? So as you see, I can have my little bullet points here. Easy to learn with very little crunch. More subclasses begins at every year. Man, that doesn't even sound like good English. Only one new class added in 5 years, and artificial. Is that a good thing? They introduce personality and backgrounds, and even there's the pre-generated characters with backgrounds in the starter set. So, Greg, um, what edition did you start playing D&D?
3.5.
3.5. I started in advance, and I'm going to tell you right now, fifth edition has really come a long way in exploring the backgrounds. Now, I played third, Greg. So, what did they have to help you develop your backgrounds? Do you remember?
I mean, for like lore sections in the back of the book, there wasn't anything like the current 5th edition where you like roll up on tables. Kind of had to use your imagination.
Yeah, that I mean, same thing in like at the beginning, the DM they barely used your background. Like at the very beginning, like right now we emphasize session zero. Making your characters, figuring out where you're from, going over rules. Back then, because and I'm talking advanced Dungeons and Dragons, everything was so simple is that you just rolled up a character and then you just started playing. And sometimes the DM would be like, okay, the adventure starts out here, and these are the major cities around. Pick which one, and tell me who you know, and give me a little reason why you picked this character, and that was your background. I mean, did you experience kind of the
Yeah,
same thing in third edition?
yeah, pretty much. I had a good DM back then, and he would always give us basically, you're on the road to blank. Give me an excuse of why you're. Give me a motivation to why you're going, as well as building your character. So and like backstory. So he had like different questions, but also like questions about motivation, so he could wrap the story around what we were doing.
Yeah. So for like fifth edition, I love this part because even as a veteran player like myself and Greg, sometimes you get caught in a rut of what kind of character you're going to play. You're like, oh, I'm always going to play this type of personality where, you know, in the player's handbook, they give you that option and they give you a dice roll. And the reason why usually I'll tell people to either pick or roll the dice, but I always tell people, new players, to roll the dice. That way, it's something random. It helps them to develop how to role play different styles of characters and motivations. Where veterans can just kind of like look at it and be like, oh, you know what? I've never played an entertainer before. I think I'll be a greedy entertainer, because I used to playing like clerics and paladins. And, you know, maybe my bond would be I
Oh,
would do anything for members of my old trope. And then the flaws could be like, I'm a sucker for a pretty face. So, right there, that tells you everything you need to know about your character. And I love that part about 5th edition.
yeah. I mean, there's good and bad with it.
Oh,
It's good
yeah.
that it gives you a place to start. I've not seen people really stick with it a lot. Some people do, but most people don't.
No, you're
I mean, it
right.
kind of gets them. It gets a starting point to get the idea of where the character is going to go, but then they don't really stick with that flaw, or they don't really stick with that like
Ideal
self
or
identity.
bond.
Yeah,
And then the other thing is that when you take these backgrounds, you get skill proficiencies, you get a tool proficiency sometimes, you get a language, you get additional equipment, besides your starting class, and so those are also other benefits. All right, so so far 5th edition, yeah, major improvements. I don't know what they're going to do with um if they do 5.5 or they do 6th edition. I kind of figure that maybe with the backgrounds, maybe they'll give like that's where you get your proficiency bonuses. Or if you take like a fighting class or something, I have a feeling they're going to be changing something around like that.
maybe. I don't know.
Next, more races to play, including monsters. So, added to the new races added to the player's handbook is a dragonborn, a tiefling, a dark elf, aka drow. New monster races to play from Volo's Guide. How do you pronounce that? A smear, Samar, Samar,
ASMR
Asamar. I was like you're saying ass. Firebog,
Furbog,
Goliath, Kinku, Lizardfolks,
Baxi, the
Tabaki.
kitty people.
Yep, and Tritons. So those are for people who like to do campaigns differently. Where in the sense of like if you choose Triton, obviously you're going to be doing a sea bearing campaign. Not everybody has to be Triton, but one person can be. Um, just
Never
know
actually.
that if you play other races, it will be harder for you to monster races to walk into a town or a small village or even a city.
Yeah, but sometimes it doesn't work that way, but it should.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've never seen anyone be a Triton before. Maybe I'll be a Triton next time.
Oh, really? You're gonna
I don't know.
force
I mean,
everybody to play a water campaign?
I'll be a Triton that's scared of the water.
You could be a half Triton.
Triton that's scared of the water.
I would so.
No, I'm not getting on the boat.
Yeah, I'll find it amusing, but the rest of your group won't. And don't do that. All right, Greg's joking around. Don't do
I'm
that.
serious.
So here's another fun fact. All these things that you see right here, as far as like monsters go, that's been done since Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. They've had books dedicated to, creating player characters for certain races. Even in the very beginning of D&D, there were players who were playing like lizard men. So, there were half ogres. So it has come a long way. Um, I think certain monster characters, if if you play them right, and more importantly, if the DM has people react to them right at the beginning of an encounter, then it can be fun to play. If they don't, then I feel like you're losing out on some of the experience of taking a monster character. What do you think, Greg?
Um, or play all monsters,
Yeah, you can do that too.
or all bad guys.
Yes,
That's fun.
that is. That can be fun. Um, just let the DM know ahead of time before he starts making his campaign or doing things. You're like, yeah, we all want to play an all evil group. And it's like, oh, okay, then I can change everything, you know. But on some of those things, it's not that hard of a fix. You're just more motivated by greed than by doing the right thing.
Or fear. You can be
Or
motivated
fear.
by fear.
That too. I like that they added Dragonborn and Tiefling and even the Dark Elf or the Drow into the player's handbook. For a long time, people have been asking, especially for the Drow, since they first came out, they wanted to add those characters. And a lot of campaigns they just did. All they did was just use the same stats for an elf, but they would give it like sensitivities to sunlight, like from the monster manual, and it was pretty much that's it. So
Right.
yeah,
Or a couple other things. Yeah. Yeah, mostly. Um, Dragonborn isn't as broken as it was in previous editions.
yeah, like they they toned it
Right.
down.
Yeah, I still have like a groan fest. You know, says I'm playing a Dragonborn. I'm like, it's not as bad as it used to be.
And the
That's my opinion
Tiefling I
from
thought
long
was
ago.
fun to add in there.
Yeah, these things are interesting,
Yep.
fun.
All right. So the Volo's Guide to Monster. Another Volo guide is needed. Need more lore
Is this
for other creatures. Do the monster block in 5th edition need a makeover? More unique abilities and stats. And more stats to feel that don't feel. I mean, the monster stats feel too vanilla. Would you agree with that? I've been hearing that a lot lately. I've been watching like other like videos and seeing comments and stuff, and they feel like the
which one?
the majority of monsters are just they're just like
Are they too vanilla? Are they too samey?
well too vanilla. They don't have enough unique abilities on some of these creatures. Um,
No, you should be. You need to, as the DM, you need to be making your own um, villains and monsters, just like the players are making their own characters. You use the monster guide as a reference point and fill in all the minions and things with that stuff because it's just easy. But then you got to make some like bad bosses, and then the muscle guy and the few other key people who are different. They have personality
yeah,
because personality and motivation will give you interesting villains to go against. Then some interesting monsters that have like powers that aren't normal. Just make some of your own rules up. Some really powerful things.
yeah. Whatever you do, apparently, I've been banned from making two-headed hellhounds. Yeah, the players didn't like when I
Well,
did that.
that's fine. I mean, that's scary as heck. Don't like make five of them for whatever level we were at. You have to know what it's doing.
You guys were 8th level, you babies. But anyways, that was like a campaign we had done, and so I go, you guys lived barely. So yeah, you like Greg said, you should always be tweaking. Like if you look at like the stats in there for anything, and you're like, oh, I don't really like it, just change it. If you feel like your kobolds need just an extra 1 or 2 hit points so they don't get one shotted, every time they get hit with one attack, just give them one or two extra hit points just to make the combat a little bit more interesting. Or
Or
if you're
you
dealing with like kobolds and goblinoids, give them poison weapons. So when they hit with their sword attack or their arrow, if the players fail their con save, they're poisoned and now they're at disadvantage. You don't have to like go crazy with different things. You can just think about being more creative. Um, you could have them throw vials of acid, and if it hits them, some of their equipment's got to start making a save.
yeah.
That'll
Or you could have, or okay, there's the kobold. Now there's also a human there with a mask on, and he's shouting orders in Draconic. And now the kobold are all using tactics that are making it difficult to fight, or something, or they're giving extra shield
yeah.
bonuses to
Yeah,
each
you
other,
you
or
could
something.
have that. You could have a more intelligent being dictating the kobolds to fight, where um, while your characters are in whatever environment, the woods, wherever, every now and then just have them roll a perception roll, and I'll be like, why? And you'll be like, oh. And then if they roll high enough, it'd be like you feel like you're being watched. So during this time, your enemy, the main villain could be sending out minions to attack you to assess your abilities, right? And this only works every now and then. You can't be doing it for every campaign. Every villain does this. But doing little stuff like that throws the party for a loop and makes more of an interesting villain and combat. All right, next thing. All right, dark vision everywhere. Why? Original Player's Handbook race that had improvision. I had to go look this up. I go, wow, it's been a long time since we used improvision. So dwarves, elves, gnomes, halflings, half elves, and orcs. So with improvision,
What? That's not true.
that is true. That was the only races that used improvision back in the
Oh,
original D&D.
okay.
Yeah. So infravision is to see heat in the dark. So you couldn't see if everything was completely dark, you couldn't see. So you could only see beings that had other heat sources. That's how they would be able to see each other. That was infravision. Now, fifth edition is dark vision. Can see in dim light as it were bright light, in darkness as in dim light, and in darkness can only see shapes, not colors. Dwarves, elves, gnomes, half elves, half orcs, and tieflings. 6 out of the 9 races can see in the dark. And now I think that just leaves out humans, halflings, and surprisingly, Dragonborn do not have dark vision. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
You think
I
that takes
mean,
away something from the game?
um, what's the goal? I mean, if the goal is to make everything easier, it does definitely make things easier not to have to constantly keep track of light sources and stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
which goes back to that comment of less crunchy. You're not worried about all these
right.
different things.
I mean, and humans not having it is huge because the human is the most popular
Yeah,
class played by like a 2-to-1 margin almost. So, I mean, I think it's okay. Um, I thought okay-ish. I don't know. I think like the infravision was kind of a cool idea. I never knew about that.
yeah, that
Be
was
nice to like
original. I think they
like
had
some
that
of
in
these
third
classes.
too. It's just one of those things that really wasn't emphasized as much.
Like it'd be cool. Like if like one of them had that instead of dark vision, so there's
Yep.
a little bit difference.
Yeah, I just feel
Have
like
like
it's just too easy with dark vision. You automatically just see. Where I like infravision, where you can detect heat sources.
create
And
a race that's like a bat and uses echolocation.
something. But it's something that DM. This is really more of a DM problem. Players are like, I don't see a problem with it. But for new dungeon masters, it can be a little bit of an issue, especially if you if your campaign is going to be, mostly in caves and stuff, and you want to place some traps that they normally wouldn't be able to see, but now they can just see clearly. They're like, "Oh, I see that net above my head," where normally they wouldn't have. So, it
Mm.
takes away little things like that, but that's just something for 5th edition that you're just going to have to work out. All right,
So
next.
minor. That's minor. I have
It
to just
is. I
work
mean,
around. Not
the whole
that big a
topic of
deal.
dark vision is really just a minor issue for the DM. All right, monster encounters can be hard for new DMs and dungeon masters. DM's Guide, page 81, combat encounter difficulty. So they give you like a guide, like easy, hard, difficult. What is it? Hold on a second. Then there's Xanatar's Guide to Everything on page 92. Random encounters for every environment. And ultimately, only time and practice can help you create a well balanced encounter. But real quick, okay. So they have easy, medium, hard, and deadly. And they break it up by XP. So that's how they, with the challenge rating they give you. So I don't know. Greg, did you ever use any of these combat encounter like uh, charts?
I tried to a bit, but I realized that challenge rating was not a very good metric
Yeah, use it
to
more like a
figure out.
guideline.
Yeah, it's. I think you have to know if you're a DM. I think you have to know your party and you test them a little bit early on. Test them with some high AC creatures. Test them with some magic users. Test them with like a swarm tactic thing, and see how much of each thing they're. 'Cause parties will be like really strong against one, but kind of weak to another. And then you'll know like how to go at them,
Yeah,
how to not overwhelm them in a particular way that they're weak, unless that becomes like, and that should be the end level type of thing. It's the stuff that's really hard and adverse. Probably, I would think.
yeah. As a new DM, even as a veteran DM, there are times that if you do um, bring in too much, you can always strip it away. Like, if you made like a mage too powerful and he's really tipping the table. I mean, turn the table on the characters. You can have him once they lose a quarter of their forces. He goes, "I'll see you again," and then disappears and closes the door. Greg will get that joke. So
Right.
um, you can always have them do that. You can always adjust encounters. You can always adjust magical items that you've given to creatures, hit points on the spot right when you start the encounter. You're like, uh-oh, this is not working out how I thought it was going to be. And, sometimes the characters bring it out of themselves because they keep pushing in areas where they shouldn't and they should be trying to avoid. And some of them just don't care and push through it anyway. So we'll probably be doing a separate video on monster encounters for new DMs down the road. But yeah, it's just a recap of fifth edition as a whole. Any other tips that you want to lay out there before we move on to the next?
Um, Use environment as well to make things harder or easier.
Oh, that is such a good tip. I forgot about that. Yeah, that is a really good tip because even at first level, even if your party at not first but like second or third level are facing like kobolds could use the terrain to their advantage. Are they fighting in like a rocky hill type situation where they're dropping boulders on them? Um, and if they start to come up, the player characters come up, they could have like pits already dug. There's all kinds of stuff you can get creative with to make it, them hate these little, one challenge XP creatures. So no, that's a good tip. Good tip. Environment. Don't forget about that. All right, people. All right, major improvement to spellcasters. So most classes have access to spell casting abilities. I don't know if that's a good thing. Cantrips used to have low damage. Most were utility spells. Improved cantrips are now unlimited and cause decent damage. Spellcasters can now wear armor if they take a feat. Replace spell components with spell focuses, and you now have bonus action spells. So, Greg, as a person who mostly plays wizard characters or spell casting, from three, since you started from
Why do you say
three,
that?
what
That
do you what do you think?
um, I think that it's been. I like what they've done to the fighter, giving them their like skill points or whatever they are called.
Yeah,
I think it's actually pretty good because it's very specific to like physical, you know, to what they can do. They're enhancing their own ability mostly,
yeah,
and the monks with their whatever it's called, key points.
yeah. And
And I
even the
think that's
barbarians have
yeah,
spell like abilities, with their raging
yeah,
and other things. Like most classes have some kind
yeah.
of innate magical ability in a sense.
And you talk about access to spell casting abilities. Do you remember fourth edition?
I
Because
never
oh my
played
goodness,
fourth edition. I looked at that thing and I was kind of
oh
just disgusted, to be truthful. I was like, nope, I'm good.
yeah,
I'll
it's
just
all special. It's all special abilities is what it was.
yeah.
Um, well,
What kind of audience were they trying to hit with that again?
oh, the WoW crowd,
That
people who
was
put
it.
because that's exactly what it was. It was you have different abilities, and then they had cooldowns.
Yep.
I mean, it functionally worked, I guess, but it just wasn't the same game, and it really killed role playing.
Oh yeah, everybody went to Pathfinder because of that. Pathfinder owes a lot of its success to fourth edition D&D. And
Yeah,
I know a lot of Pathfinder players who watch this video might disagree or feel insulted, but it's true. Um, Pathfinder brought
still,
brought in
I've
a
still
lot of
played more.
players who wanted
I
to
played.
play 3.0. Sorry, Greg. Go ahead.
I probably played more Pathfinder than D&D,
Yeah.
probably. So, because I played very little 3.5. I basically went like one short campaign in 3.5, then straight into Pathfinder for years. So that's more my background.
Yeah. So it's Pathfinder. I'm not gonna ever badmouth Pathfinder, right? I looked at it. I've never actually played it, but it just reminds me of 3.0 Dungeons and Dragons. So I was like, okay, that'd be cool. And had they kept fourth edition for a little bit longer than they did, I probably would have started playing Pathfinder and just been like, hey, I'm gonna start getting Pathfinder books, blah blah blah. But then you know Wizards finally came to its senses after the poor sale drops, and now we have fifth, which I'm glad. Cantrips, for those of you, I want to say cantrips go far as back as second edition, and they were in the original Unearthly Arcania book, which unfortunately, do I have a copy of that? Oh, yeah, I do. It's so busted up. I gotta get me a new copy of this book. Always love the counter, but let's just check real quick. I thought they did. Should have had all this beforehand. Oh yeah, they did. Okay, so their cantrips were like they said, they were mostly utility spells, very low damage, and I'm gonna just tell you a couple of the spells right off the bat. There was chill, and all that means that you could just make an item colder. There was clean, there was color, there was dampen, there was dry, there was dust, there was exterminate, There was flavor, freshen, gather, polish, salt, shine, spice, sprout, stitch, sweeten, tie, warm, wrap. And then they had
So it
reverse cantrips, enchantments like sour, ravel. So
so it was all prestidigitation, is what it
yeah, it
was.
was just basically, yeah. I mean, it was just one of those things where you're like, okay, and you could only, I believe, cast so many per day. Where they included it into the like your spell casting abilities. You could only I think you can only cast 4 a day or something like that. And so that was cantrips. So now they're unlimited and they cause decent damage. Here's the thing: I'm on the fence about this. Spellcasters can now wear armor if they take a feat. How do you feel about
So
that?
efficiency. I think it's pretty decent. I mean,
Yeah, coming from a wizard, you would say that. Spellcaster. Why can't my low hit point wizard wear plate armor?
well, exactly, because why not?
Yeah, I see. I mean,
I mean, it's.
reluctantly, I do see. Flavor wise, I'm like, but
I mean, what they need to do is they need to make it easier to defend yourself with magic. I
I
think
think that's what.
if they don't want to have armor, I think that's just what they did. I think they just said, let's give them armor so we don't have to think about how to balance their defensive abilities.
Yeah. Well, they really should make a cantrip armor where it just bumps up your AC +1, +2, or +3 if you're not wearing any armor. That includes like padded armor. I don't want to be having
Right?
these arguments with people. No armor. You wear no armor. It adds +3 to your AC. Um, you could be wearing other things that give you bonuses to your AC. So this would stack with it. So I'd even give it that. You know. Um, or maybe it doesn't because it's a cantrip. But either way, you can do stuff like that. I do like the fact that they've replaced spell components with spell focuses. Greg's been playing with me now for like close to 2 years, and the house rule I always implement is we don't use spell components. I just assume every time you go to a village or a town that you buy the necessary
Yeah.
spell components. I mean, it's just too hard to keep track of.
Except for the ones that have a specific value listed next to them,
Yes, that's
I think.
different. You need 100 gold piece gem.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. That you need that. That type of things. Yes. Do you keep needing like balls of spider web to cast web and bat guano or whatever the hell they used to do? I mean, nowadays they're not even that specific half the time about the spell components. Sometimes they do for flavor. And I think one of the biggest changes is bonus action spells. I don't
Oh,
recall
yeah.
that being in third edition.
Um, and third. Not really, I
Oh.
don't think.
So bonus action spells are nice. Just remember that in order to cast a bonus action spell, the spell has to say bonus action.
Instantaneous, isn't it?
Yeah. And usually in the description, they'll also say bonus action too.
Yeah.
So these are like really big improvements. I don't know what more they can do to improve the spellcasters. I think they've improved them a lot in fifth edition. So going on to like 5.5 or even sixth edition, I don't really see them tweaking that much with it. All right. Next. DM rules are final. Always have been. Players have been asking for more structure. Why? Learn how to use house rules for different play groups. Establish rules early. Good reason to have a session 0. Advantages and disadvantages rules added. And some rules are too spread out. So, Greg, um, if you were just starting out as a DM and and somebody asked you for advice, like what books do I need for the rules, what would you tell them?
Uh, just the one rule book,
Yeah,
pretty
that's
much.
that's what you would think, right? The DM's guide. But when they add these new other books like Xandatar's Guide to Everything and
Yeah.
Tasha's Cauldron to Everything, um, they put a little bit of everything. There's stuff for players. The majority of it is for new DM. It's for DMs, and so there's rules in there. And I feel like with 5.e, they're gonna take all these rules from the everything books, and hopefully they'll put them in the new DM's guide for 5.5 or 6. Same thing with the player's handbook.
Yeah, that's one thing that's kind of weird is that they have the main rules are kind of stripped down. They kind of waited to put them in later.
Hmm.
That's a bit odd. It'd be nice to have them all in one place.
Well, and,
Um,
the other thing has always been, look, the DM's rule is always final. And sometimes that's hard to implement because you're playing with friends. It's easier for you to just say my rules are final if you're just playing with people you don't know that well because you're like in a gaming group or whatever. But as a DM, and I've failed this with most of the time with my friends, I've gotten better at it now, but it's just putting my foot down and be like, we can discuss this after the game, you know, and just move on instead of having like, 30-minute, 15 to 30-minute arguments on rules and rule lawyers. So, that really takes, that really just, it deflates the game. Wouldn't you say, Greg?
um, yeah, I guess so. But also say be consistent
Mm hmm.
and make sure the rules apply the same in different situations.
Yeah.
And it's also, I mean, there's one friend that we had that kind of fell out, and mostly because he built his character around very specific uh, rules interactions to min max stuff, and you weren't exactly accommodating to that
No.
all the time.
I
But
just felt it was too busted, and especially because
yeah,
it was like at first level he was doing this, and I'm like,
yeah, but that's how. I mean, if something like that comes up, you need to figure out a way to work together and communicate.
yeah,
Because I mean, if somebody built their entire character around some interaction, some assumption, then you say that doesn't. No, that's not how it's going to work. Well, now they have a character that doesn't work,
yeah,
and they're all upset.
yes,
So, like, basically, just like try to ask, ask your players, and if there's any like specific, like what their characters are trying to do, how, what's their powerful thing? What do you want them to become? What do you want their thing to do? Be that they do, and hopefully then you can get ahead of it, stuff like that.
yeah. No, no, those are good things.
Oh, okay, you hear me still? Good.
Okay, yeah, those are good. Yeah, I can hear you. I've been hearing you this entire time. Those are good rules and advice. I mean, that part I am working on. I'm just not used to playing with power gamers. I have up to a point, but it had been a while, and never has any edition been so busted as this one. I thought third edition was busted when I
No,
first saw the initial, but fifth takes the cake on
no,
what you can do
no, no,
at first level. I believe so.
no,
Really?
absolutely not. No.
Oh no, no, no! I don't have my third edition's player's handbook. I don't. That you know what? We're gonna put a pin in that conversation, and we're gonna do another video on that. I mean, because I gotta reread some of those rules on there. But like I said, ultimately, it's as a dungeon master, you're responsible for the rules. Period. Um, Any house rules you want to do, establish those early. Um, any rulings you set, just stick to them unless they say something that really overturns your logic that you're thinking at that time. You're like, oh, okay, all right. But if it turns into where you're butting heads constantly, you just say, look, we'll discuss it afterwards. And then you can do more research on it. Like, towards the end of our gaming sessions, that's what I was doing. I was like, while we're going through the rest of the combat and that, could someone look that up? You know, and that's what they would do. My players would do that. They'd look up the rules, and if they were convincing enough to what they showed me, I was like, okay, all right, the next time we do that, that's what we'll do. But, you know, it's just something you're just going to have to figure out, and it's kind of hard to master at the beginning, but once you do, your games will run a lot smoother. All right. And finally, is Dungeons and Dragons a multiverse? Have we been stuck too long in Forgotten Realms, and why? Not enough support for other campaign worlds. Wizards only drops one book, then moves on. Example, Ravenloft. Why do they stay around the Sword Coast so much in 5th edition? And Advanced Dungeons and Dragons knew how to support a new campaign world. Example, Ravenloft, Spelljammers, Dark Sun, Planescape, and yes, Forgotten Realms. Most people don't remember, or the new players want to act like Forgotten Realms was just thought of something, you know, different. And then there was like Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and then Forgotten Realms came along. And that's just not the case. Forgotten Realms was something that they just built on, that people were really enjoying because they spent a lot of time detailing really the underworld and certain aspects of certain cities like Waterdeep, and that's what drew in people's attention. So you started at 3rd edition, Greg. What? What?
3.5.
3.5. What campaign world did you go into? Did you start in Forgotten Realms? Were you in Greyhawk?
No,
Where were you?
my old GM just did custom stuff,
Hmm.
his own world, which I think that's probably what you should. Once you get experienced, you should probably do your own, or at least do your own niche of an existing world, if not your own game world. Just because you have the ability to make all the characters, tell all the stories. You can borrow things and adjust them and port them in, but put your own flavor on it with your own your own overarching story. I think that's what I would want to do.
Yeah.
What I enjoyed
They
because it's
currently.
then you can't just it's not just in not, everything's not just in the book.
Yeah.
There's a whole story that you can't just read about in your handbook.
But some people, like myself, I do like that part where I don't have to spend hours and hours of creating my own world, which is something that I'm actually doing right now. The current campaign that Greg and I are playing, along with Michael and my friend Eric from Vegas, and his friend who he invited. His name is Martin. And so, in this new campaign world I call Pantheon, um, we're starting from scratch, and I'm going to be making videos on how to do that. But um, if you're going to make a world from scratch, don't draw a big world map. You don't need that. Um, you don't even need to draw a continent map. You just need to ask your characters something simple like, tell me what village, not a town, because then as a town, you got to create a lot. A village, you don't. Give me a village. Give me 3 unique buildings about it. Let me know about any interesting NPCs. Just a few. Don't get too crazy. And where's your location, and then give me three locations around. Like, is it near an ocean? Is it near a river? Is it near a mountain? Is it near a volcano? You get the idea, and you use that to start building your campaign world. So now the players are invested in your world because it's not just your world, it's their world too. So those are my tips that we're currently working on. And I'll just put you on the spot right now. How are you enjoying this Pantheon campaign?
Great, I'm on the spot right now. I mean, it's a good campaign. I like it. I wouldn't I wouldn't go about it that way though. I would make my own world and not have input from other people so much
You don't
personally.
think so? I think for the first time creating your own world, I would do it that way. Um,
I don't like things created by committee. I like individual inspiration. The
hmm.
best things are written by one or two authors, not by a committee.
Oh, well, see, right there, you're seeing two different approaches. There are plenty of other videos you can watch on how to create your own campaign worlds. And for me, I think this is better for like new D&D players. Like, okay, this is very daunting because if you watch videos, they're talking about you got to create your religions and your currencies, and then there's political themes and who are the rulers and who are all the gods. And I'm like, you know what? I don't need to do all that. So in Pantheons, I'm just like, all right, it's only second edition deities from the Demi book of deities and demigods. So there's no Greyhawk gods, there's no Forgotten Realms. Um, in this world, where they're at, it's called the Freelands, and they're in between uh, the Northlands, which are like the Viking era. So you got all the Norse gods, Thor, Odin, all that. And then at the bottom, you have the Greek gods. And the history has been that in the Freelands, they don't like organized religion. They're not telling you can't worship gods because everybody worships whatever god they want to. They just don't like you building temples because they feel that the wars between the Greeks and the Norse have always had to come through their territory in battle and wreck everything. And then the freelands all gather together and have like um, become a council in a sense that if any of these two opposing forces ever come back and try to pull that again, they all agree to help each other. But it's not to me. It doesn't mean like that other little free states won't fight each other, and there's not like there's you know no, it's not like everything's all kumbaya within the freelands. No, there's intrigue, there's politicalness that goes on, but they will all come together if the Greeks try to send a massive army through, or the Norsemen. And so I just started our campaign in this one little small area to help build it out. And or you could do like Greg's approach, where you just build your own world, whether you want to include like the Forgotten Realm gods or Greyhawk gods or whatever. Um, you can just start from there, but just know that it is a hard task for most people. I'll go to say, like when you created your own world, Greg, what did you consider it hard, or were you just like la di da going through the whole thing like it was nothing? Did I lose you, Greg?
Um, no, I'm here.
Okay.
How do I do it? Um, the yeah, I just come up with like the idea, like how do I want to start a story, and I came up with like okay, because I listened to different bunch of different like D&D stories, and what were some of the things that were some of the interesting things that started. And I always like an interesting beginning, which kind of brings everyone together.
Yeah.
So I like having like a group motivation or a group, so something that brings no, nothing brings a group together like suffering.
Greg.
That's no, but it's true.
Yeah.
Like so, like one cool thing is like okay, you start somewhere, you're in a tower, and no one has any memories of who they are. The amnesia start. So now you're stuck trying to figure out who the heck you are together, because even you don't know what your bonds are, but you all have the same problem, or you all get mugged in the same like stagecoach or something.
Yeah,
Now you're wandering around with nothing.
those are like good first level
Right.
encounters that they did. Like, how do you start your campaign? And some of them, like Greg just said right there, they're getting mugged. You just start out right off in combat, and or you can start off like in Greg is suggesting where you just lost the combat and there is no combat. You just tell the players like you awaken, and the last thing you remembered was a club hitting you in the back of the head or hitting you across the head, and that knocked you out. Those type of situations. Because the classic is usually you meet at an inn. It's so cliche, but there's a reason why most
And somebody
DM
comes in and
groups.
says, "I had this quest to put that everyone goes on," and there's at least one of the characters that probably wouldn't go on that quest.
Yep.
Like, why would my character go on that quest? But you have to, because you have to get the group together.
Yeah. Yeah, and
A
they,
little bit of
these are the
force,
same players
force
who
them,
feel
and
like they're railroaded in. And I'm like, you know what? When you're playing in a group, it's called a group for a reason.
oh,
Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy who'll be like, yeah, what's in it for me? I'm not going. And then the DM
don't
like drops his pen and goes and looks at you and goes, what?
don't railroad them in like who they are. Don't railroad them into what choices they can make, but do railroad in their motivation to be together.
Yeah, that is good advice. So with that, this is going to be our New Year's Eve video too. What's today? Wednesday. So I'll be doing this tomorrow for Thursday. So when you see this video, it's Thursday. Hello, Thursday. This is our end of the year video, and guys, wish you a happy New Year.
Yeah.
We have some exciting videos coming out next year, and I have some other big plans for the channel. We're gonna be doing other things. I'm still going to be doing Magic the Gathering videos, and they're very entertaining, people. Even if you're not into Magic the Gathering, you will find my gameplay entertaining. And Greg yells at me a lot for making stupid plays. So there's that. Anything else you want to add, Greg?
Um, I guess tentative Happy New Year, unless it's COVID year 3, then it's not going to be happy. I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, I hope it's not that.
Hope for a better New Year than the last one.
Yes, indeed. And with that, people, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you made it this far, we definitely have earned your subscription. A subscriber, hopefully. Um, Hit the like button if you're enjoying the content. Leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from you on any suggestions that you would make, what you do like about 5th edition, what you don't, any subject you would like us to cover. Like I said, between Greg starting out 3.5 but having Pathfinder, and then recently got back into D&D playing 5th edition, to myself who's played D&D on and off since 1980. Yes, I'm an old man. We do have a lot of experience, and the other players that I'm going to try to get into some of these videos also have been playing for like 20, 25 years plus. So, with that, people, catch you later.
Hey, everyone.